that person who always finds themselves in toxic relationships and wonder why they can't find someone that is good and steady, because the minute they find anyone that there's any sort of interest in whatsoever, I mean, it is hot and heavy. This is the one, no matter how many times they have declared this is the one before. I mean, they just, and it gets to the point, their friends are like, oh, kind of rolling their eyes, and oh, here we go again. Gee whiz, in love. This is the one that's gonna be it. Another week, another found my true love. And when it comes to some of these candidates, that's how Democrats are. But and it makes sense, both scenarios. Those are the behaviors of emotionally driven individuals that either don't have the ability or the willingness and desire to stop and really think things through and to get in touch with reality, because they just want it so bad. They just so desperately want it. Tunnel vision, that's it. And Tallarico is the latest of these individuals. One of the latest of these individuals. I think that just the fact that he's a straight-up weirdo is going to once again, I mean, of all the places, Texas, I just can't imagine. To me, he seems even less appealing than Beto O'Rourke. And the latest, just the fakeness. He's put out an official statement regarding the taunting that Republicans and Trump have given him about being vegan. And that is, in the campaign sent out an official statement about Tallarico being vegan, and I had him standing there eating a giant turkey leg or something, and it just is so fake. It's not AI, but it's such a clear, like, oh, well, we've got to do something about this. So here, let's go to this park over here. And in the picture, it's funny. It's not even him sitting around with a bunch of people eating at a picnic. It's him standing alone at a table outside eating a turkey leg. And you can just sense that he's never done it before. He's uncomfortable doing it. He feels awkward. You just sense that. Maybe I'm reading into it, but it's so lame. It's so pathetic. And it is another example of a Democrat that is anything that the Democrat believes is desired at any given moment. I mean, it's just, and we see this with Democrat candidates, and it really gets on full display when they show up at black churches or before a black audience. You know, Gavin Newsom, before a black audience, talking about how I'm no smarter than you black people are. I can't even read real good. And it's such disgusting pandering. And we're already beginning to see it out of Tallarico. So there's some actual depth to this as well. I do want to talk about Jill Biden. You know, her book is coming out, I think next week.
Oh, should we schedule her
see
for
if we can get
Author of the
old
Week?
Jill on there. Can you imagine if we booked Jill Biden for Author of the Week?
First question, where do you get your shower curtains?
Yeah. Yeah. Has your wardrobe selection been diminished by the closing of Bed Bath & Beyond on a national scale? I could just imagine I mean, 5 minutes into it, and all of a sudden the other line picks up, and you hear the beep, 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 and Joe is, like, you know, hello, trying to make phone calls. You can hear the dogs fighting in the background, attacking people, if they still even have any of those dogs. I don't know. But so she's got this book coming out, and she's doing the book tour, and she sat down during an interview and is claiming now that during the debate, of course, the infamous debate against Donald Trump, and the whole thing was a train wreck, but there's really one moment that was or still is viewed as sort of the moment in which, okay, this can't be hidden any longer. And he got lost and confused, and then finally wrapped up his incoherence by declaring, "We beat Medicaid," and she claims that she thought he was in the middle of having a stroke, legitimately. Now, this runs counter to what she said at the time. And in fact, the one of the authors from Axios, Alex Thompson, I believe is his name, he had written that book that pretty much revealed what everyone knew, what we all knew, but yeah, people behind the scenes, they knew this, they knew he's seen now, and he's calling her out. It's like, this is so untrue, what she's claiming. We've got some of her audio. Christy Filnecki will not be here with us today.
Boo.
Yeah, I know, boo, she's in court. We do have Author of the Week. Our Author of the Week actually is going to be a revisit because school's out. This is the time of year that a lot of you might be thinking about vacation, but maybe you don't want to go real far away. You're just kind of thinking road trip stuff. And we had at the beginning of the year an author that has an entire book on a lot of little towns in Missouri. And these areas that are definitely worthy of visits to spend a day or two or just to stop for an afternoon, but you may not have heard of. Some you may have, some you may not have. And I thought, given that this is the time of year, a lot of people with the kids out and so forth, that you may be looking for that sort of thing to do. So that, of course, will be coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today, a chance for showers and thunderstorms throughout the day with a high near 78. Tonight, rain likely with a low around 65. For your Friday, a 60% chance of showers throughout the day with a high near 79. And taking a look at Saturday, partly sunny with a chance of scattered showers in the afternoon with a high near 82.
All right, so let's talk about Jill Biden. She has this new book coming out, which we knew this was going to happen, and when it was announced that she would be having a book come out, it was I anticipate. I thought, well, this is going to be interesting. What direction is she going to go? Is she going to go scorched to earth and start throwing people under the bus left and right? Is she going to be thinking at this point, we have no other revenue stream? Our revenue stream was influence, selling access, and we have no access. Hunter has no access. Joe has no access. I have no access. And it's not just that. Remember, what was it, like 9 or 11 grandkids? They had set up these secret accounts. They were funneling money from all these different countries into their accounts, and all of that drying up. So, got to sell books. And if you sell books that don't have anything real spicy and exciting and scandalous, but instead it's just the standard political cover your backside and just the standard boilerplate political talk and explaining away disasters, who wants to buy that? Nobody wants to buy that. The book is set to come out, I think it's in June, and which would be 2 years after the infamous debate in which Democrats could no longer pretend as if nothing was wrong with Joe Biden. And Jill Biden sat down and had an interview, and she talks about that moment. This is as she's peddling her book, in which she saw Joe Biden during what many people considered to be most memorable, the worst moment, when he got really, really lost and confused and started changing thoughts during mid-sentence, and then ended it by saying, I think we killed off Medicaid.
You horrified as you saw it unfold?
I wasn't horrified, I was frightened, because I had never, ever seen Joe like that before or since. Never.
Or since?
Yes. Or
You've
since.
never seen him like
Never.
that?
No.
What happened?
I don't know what happened. I mean, as I watched it, I thought, oh my God, he's having a stroke. And it scared me to death.
That's a lie.
Like, she almost could get away, or not get away with it, but get some defense if she had not also put in there that she's never seen it since. I mean, that's the big, like, are you serious? Why continue to lie about this? Now, I guess sometimes the answer is the obvious answer, and people don't like to admit they were wrong. They don't like to be caught. They don't like to have full confessions, and yeah, it's really bad. And even human instinct, oftentimes, if a loved one is doing very poorly, you live in denial and you tell others, oh no, everything's just fine. And so it could be as simple as that from a non-political perspective, that she's just in denial and pretending everything's fine, but that's become an unavoidable factor because it was there for the entire world to see, but everything else, oh no, I haven't seen anything since then. But outside,
I don't think that's what it is.
I don't either, but why?
I think it's self-preservation, really, because, I mean, people were claiming for such a long time that he had mental health issues. It was elder abuse on full display.
Yeah.
So I guess if you admit to that, you're admitting to elder abuse.
Yeah, there's some, I could see that. I suppose part of the difficulty I have in really narrowing down what I think the motivation here is because I don't know that she cares about her reputation other than her ability to make money, to have money coming in. And to me, this, I don't see in the world of politics her being of use to anyone any longer. Like I said before, because of and Joe Biden was president of the United States. Prior to that, he was vice president of the United States. And prior to that, he was U.S. Senator. And so he had access to things. And this is what people were paying him for. This is why all the bank accounts were set up. This is why even during the Obama administration, Treasury flagged over and over and over again all of these suspicious gifts and dollar amounts that were going from, this bank account to this LLC over here and ended up in his 12-year-old granddaughter's bank account. And no one could ever say what the money was for. Then Hunter Biden, Burisma, it was, and his paintings. All just buying access. And that's all gone. And so I'm trying to figure out if Jill Biden thinks that she has some future in politics, and so she's got to keep this preservation going of her reputation and continue the lie going. I just don't know. To me, it just seems as if you would sell a lot more books, and there could be other things that she's going to say in interviews, excerpts from this book, but it just seems like a real missed opportunity to not just unload on these people. One, because she hates a lot of them. I mean, this is something that we did learn, and this was from subsequent books that were written, particularly the one by the two authors, the Axios, and I think Politico was the other author, or journalist with Politico. I mean, she had a seething white-hot rage for these Democrats, felt as if they just betrayed him, they threw him under the bus, and she's got crap on people. It's the Democrat Party. I mean, it's all this mutual destruction that keeps the Democrat Party in balance. So if I'm Jill Biden, I'm thinking, what do I have to lose at this point? I mean, what do I have to lose? So I might as well just get out and write a book that is going to make people think, I got to get a copy of that. I want to buy that. I want to go through it. But instead, she's out there, oh, no, he was perfectly fine. And maybe it is just the simplicity of it's her husband, and she doesn't want to admit that she was lying and overanalyzing, it's missing the mark. I don't know. Now, she is, as Sarah said, lies. It's all lies. This is Alex Thompson, the co-author of that first book that really exposed the Democrats as knowing this. Everyone knew it. Everyone was lying about it, and then the media acting as if they somehow missed, we just can't believe we were lied to, and of course they all knew about it as well. And this is last night on CNN, his remarks regarding Jill Biden's claim that she not only just thought maybe he had a stroke, but has never seen any problems since.
Well, she says that she's never seen him act that way before or since, but in the interviews that over 200 of which that Jake and I did, other people did see him act like that in the months before and in the months after that. And those moments became increasingly hard to predict. And the White House was increasingly trying to manage them to keep those moments out of public view. And eventually, during the debate, they could no longer hide those moments from the public. I'd also say that what she just said there is very much at odds with what many of Biden's top aides said at the time and have said, since the 2024 election, which is they didn't think the debate was that bad. And they thought the Democratic Party way overreacted. They certainly didn't think that he was having a stroke at the time. And they thought it was, he was clearly trying to say big pharma and instead of beat Medicare. And that this was a whole, tempest in a teapot overreaction. But Jill Biden is now saying that at the time when she was watching, she thought her husband, the President of the United States, was having a stroke. And then also later that night spoke at a rally in which she praised his performance, then also did an event right afterward at a restaurant, and then also let him go and do a rally the next day in North Carolina.
And that, what he was describing, is what you, Sarah, referred to as the accusations of elder abuse, which a lot of people at that point were legitimately not just tossing the term around. I mean, like, this has gotten cruel at this point. I have to say, and I did grab the audio because I remember it at the time and just really thinking it was hysterical the way that she praised Joe Biden at an event after that disastrous debate.
You did such a great job. You answered every question.
Oh, that voice. Oh my gosh.
It's just
But
sad.
it is, but he was standing there on stage sort of looking like, I did it. And the praise, you answered every question. You answered every question. And I don't mean, she was talking to him like he was somebody who had a severe mental
Yes.
disability. I mean, she genuinely was.
Yes.
I don't even know that answering every question is the bare minimum, I suppose. And this is the problem of the cult mentality of the left, is they all cheered that. They all cheered it. This insanity, and it's frightening that when you think about it, because Kamala Harris was part of all this, and even though electorally speaking, Trump and popular vote, in terms of how elections go, presidential elections really took Kamala to the woodshed. It is frighteningly close when you think, though, how wide it should have been, the difference. When you think of the complete, utter, not just incompetency, but dishonesty of that entire administration, lying about, this Jill Biden, and the claiming that she still, after that time, never saw any problems whatsoever. One of the things that we know, it's not even disputed, is that his own cabinet members weren't allowed to see him because he was so bad. I mean, that'd be a great question for some so-called journalist to ask Joe Biden. If that was a one-off and he really had no other sort of cognitive problems that were observable, why was he hidden away from his own cabinet members? Why were you running meetings for him? Why was Hunter Biden in meetings and helping coordinate run meetings for him? It's not good for Democrats that Jill Biden is back out there again, reminding the American people what the Democrat Party, the massive scam, the huge lie that they pulled off. And it's not great for the media. It's great for the American people because it reminds Americans that you cannot trust the media. They will lie, they will cover, they will propagandize in order to get their people in office. And it is somewhat hilarious to see that same entity of journalism sit down and interview Jill Biden as if they were just outside observers of this whole thing. Well, what was it like for you? As if they had no part in it whatsoever, as if they were not co-conspirators. Got a traffic update coming up in a moment. Tallarico's latest, he's really the party that thinks masculinity is toxic is on a mission to make Tallarico seem masculine. By Texas standards, no less. Heroes Breakfast coming up tomorrow morning, broadcasting live from a Scramblers, 6, 8, and 9 a. If you're a veteran, come out, get free breakfast while we broadcast live. That thanks to Scramblers, Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, Delta Roofing, and the Warrior's Journey.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see a chance for showers and thunderstorms throughout the day with a high near 78. Tonight, rain likely with a low around 65. For your Friday, a 60% chance of showers throughout the day with a high near 79. And taking a look at Saturday, partly sunny with a chance of scattered showers in the afternoon with a high near 82.
Because Jill Biden is out there promoting her new book and claiming that during the debate she thought maybe he was having a stroke, but after that she never saw another problem. He was just sharp as a tack. And so we get to, go back and relive those memories of the giant conspiracy and lie that the American people were told. And it also gives us a chance to, to remember that Democrats will rig elections, overturn elections, do whatever they need to. And one of the text messages coming in saying, I sometimes wonder if the Democrat Party had waited another 3 to 4 weeks before they trotted out Kamala Harris as the president nominee, if she would have been president, because the amount of momentum she had and coverage until she really started messing up in those last 4 weeks, I think it would have been a lot closer. And of course, many of you may be familiar with this. Part of the narrative of the Kamala Harris campaign failure was that she didn't have enough time for people to get to know her. And of course, she had been in the White House for 4 years as vice president. She was put in charge of national security, or in terms of the border. She was put in charge of space exploration. She was put in charge of AI. Remember that one? We went through a list once of all the things that she was put in charge of, to the point she was complaining publicly that she was being given too many jobs. And but she thought being president would be another awesome one. So I always believe, well, I know this was true. The problem was what the person here suggested, is that she was out there campaigning too much. The longer she was out there, the less popular she became. And what occurred, I don't know why, sometimes I just enjoy remembering some of this as it played out, was after about 2 weeks, the same media that had been openly talking about how Joe Biden might need to drop Kamala Harris from the ticket because she was such a bad vice president that she could cause him to lose it. Suddenly, 180 degree, this is just, again, the media and how dishonest they are. I mean, just propping her up, and the most exciting, charismatic opportunity as Americans that we had to choose the first female president. I mean, you look back on it, you think how despicable and dishonest these people are. And so you had about 2 weeks of nothing other than that initial excitement. Well, the Kamala Harris campaign, there was nothing else. And what happens eventually is your audience expects a little something else. It's like going to a concert and you're waiting for the big act. And they start, there's a little pre-act and then pre-show, and then all of a sudden the music starts, and it's getting ready to happen, and all right, okay, and they keep drumming it up, and yeah, all right, everybody ready? And at some point you're like, yeah, okay, we're ready. And that's what was occurring with that after that first couple of weeks with the Harris campaign, is it was all of that, cheering and screaming, but then people are like, okay, that part's out of our system. We're ready for the show now. And so she had to start talking. She had to start doing interviews. And the campaign felt forced to do so because of her diminishing poll numbers, and all she did was more harm than good because she's Kamala Harris. I still think it's hilarious that the media, or not the media, but the Democrat Party rails on her for being such a bad candidate when they handed it to her. She didn't even run for it. Now, obviously, she wanted it. But it's not as if Kamala Harris had a past of demonstrating she did a really, really great job at running campaigns, and she just screwed this one up unexpectedly. She's never run a good campaign. On a national level and out in California, Willie Brown got her elected, and once she was in, she was in. She didn't even have to really run after that because she was a Democrat. And so this woman who has no business actually running for national office, who has no business holding national office, nothing to show for it, didn't even run for that, is told by the Democrats, here, you're going to be the nominee. And then when the American people don't want her, and she screws it up because she's completely unqualified, they get mad at her. It's like hiring somebody for a CEO position who has no experience as a CEO whatsoever. Despite that, you decide, we're going to put this person in charge. And when the predictable outcome occurs and that new hire demonstrates they have no clue what they're doing, it's a train wreck, you just get indignant and you just can't believe how bad they did. Well, what did you expect? In terms of the timing of it all, let's not forget. There was that agreement to hold the debate between Joe Biden and Donald Trump historically early in the campaign cycle. Neither of the conventions had even occurred, which means that at that point, neither of those individuals were officially the candidate for the general election. Now, obviously, they were going to be. But we've been in those positions before, where it was known prior to the convention who the Democrat nominee was going to be, who the Republican nominee was going to be, but still the conventions get done, out of the way, then there's a couple of weeks of going out there campaigning, and then in the month and a half prior to the actual election is when the debates start. But they decided, no, let's do it in June instead. And it didn't get a tremendous amount of attention in the form of intellectual curiosity as to why on earth would the Democrats agree to that. And it wasn't that they agreed to it as much as they wanted it. And I'm telling you, it was for the exact reason that is what played out. It was sort of a last-ditch effort and an opportunity to say, all right, the debate was sort of the big thing that had to happen. Can Joe Biden get through a debate with Donald Trump? Well, you do it after the convention's over. You're stuck with the guy. You do it before the convention, you still have a chance to make sure he's not the nominee. And that's exactly how it played out. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. The Democrats are at another crossroads, if you will, and they've got conflicting approaches on how to deal with it, and that is the massive loss of men supporting the Democrat Party. We played audio of one of the left-wing influencers on a podcast arguing that this was yesterday or the day before, that what the Democrats need to do is really go after not go after masculine men as in, hey, we want to win you back, but go attack them. Convince people that they're fascist, that masculinity itself is fascism. The problem, though, occurs when you're actually in a race, or the problem for the Democrats, particularly in a state like Texas. Tallarico has taken numerous positions that are not what a person would consider masculine, as much as the left want to redefine that term. And frankly, he just doesn't come off as masculine at all. He comes off as effeminate. And this is Texas. And so the approach of, well, masculinity's bad, that's why we don't have a masculine candidate, because it's bad, isn't going to work. And so instead, they take someone that is in large form the antithesis of masculinity, and they've got to try to pretend he's masculine. Now, one of the things that he has done or said in the past was when he was running for, I guess it was state senate in 2022, and declared that his campaign was meat-free. Again, this is Texas. Again, not at all what is considered to be masculine. So it's one of the narratives that the Trump administration and the Republicans are playing off of here. Like, oh, a vegan in Texas. And they don't even have to cast it in the masculinity light, but they're doing it in the cultural light of Texas. I mean, Texas Longhorns and meat and barbecue and, steaks and here's this guy that's like, my campaign's not going to eat meat. So, of course, they're just redefining him. They put out what they said this is from the Tallarico for Texas campaign, an official statement from James Tallarico on vegan accusations, and it's a picture of him eating a turkey leg. And it just looks, the picture doesn't look fake, but just the whole thing just. He's not, it's not like he's with a group of people sitting around naturally eating. It's a picture of him standing by himself at a table eating a turkey leg. It's so clearly staged and unnatural looking. But he's also out there, and Democrats know that this is potentially problematic. Fact Check has an entire piece on this. Paxton Trump falsely claimed Texas Senate candidate Tallarico is a vegan. And I'm going to play the audio that all this stems from coming up in a moment. And what Fact Check is hanging the false check mark on is that, well, not eating meat technically is different than vegan, because vegan also doesn't eat, drink milk or eat cheese. And so false, their line about manly Tallarico. And in fact, the Tallarico campaign is not only out there with pictures of him eating a turkey leg. He said on a podcast in March, the Bulwark podcast, I want to say this definitively and categorically, I deny all accusations of veganism. Our campaign basically runs on barbecue. He was on the Jamie Kern Lima show saying that vegan was not one of the accusations I thought I was going to get thrown around in the campaign, before confirming he enjoys pulled pork and brisket. It's just like Hillary Clinton with that hot sauce in her purse. I mean, all this stuff. Look at me, I'm a man. Oh, I'm eating meat all the time. Fistfuls of it. While in Austin with former President Obama, May 12th, Tallarico ordered potato, eggs, and cheese tacos. A selection some Republicans criticized, but that is nonetheless non-vegan because it had cheese and eggs on it. On a podcast, he's now claiming bacon is one of his favorite breakfasts. So it's just the overboard stuff. Now, this is what Tallarico said, and there's actually a deeper point to this, but here's Tallarico when he made this declaration during his run for his state Senate seat.
We have, I think, heard more and more issues of animal welfare. I think not just because it's the right thing to do and the moral thing to do, but also it's, as all of you know, necessary to fight climate change. It is now existential that we try to reduce our meat consumption and that we try to respect animals in all aspects of society. And so I am proud to say that our campaign has officially become a non-meat campaign. So we are only buying vegan products from our local vegan businesses. Some of you may know Big Nona's. They were little Nona's, and then they opened up brick and mortar, so another Big Nona's. But we just got our pizza from there today. And so the point is that I think all of us, not just policymakers, but everyone has to take personal responsibility in this effort.
Now, it's not the point. Don't want to nitpick here, but their pushback that, well, he never said he was vegan. He said he didn't eat meat. He did reference that I'm not eating meat. We're buying only vegan stuff. That, to me, certainly suggests that your claim is that you and your entire campaign have gone vegan. But why is it he said, this is what, and he should be asked about this. When you declared your campaign, was going meatless. You said it was in the name of saving the planet from the existential threat of climate change. And that not only was it your campaign, but it was incumbent upon every citizen to also make these sacrifices. Existential threat. Has that changed? Is eating meat no longer an existential threat that is a threat to our entire planet? Or are you willing to put our planet in danger just to win a campaign? I mean, it's got to be one of the two. This is where the media, of course, fails. Instead of simply, they pat themselves on the back. Well, we did our job. I mean, we asked him about it. Well, you said this, but, he proved that he's eating turkey legs, so I guess we did our job. Why did he change? And do the circumstances in which he declared that the campaign proudly was going meatless, as we all should, did he change because the circumstances changed, or because he's not really that principled after all, and that he will completely abandon even commitments to prevent existential threats if it means winning a campaign? Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing text line text. I don't care if a person or politician is vegan or vegetarian. It doesn't make a difference to me. Does having alpha-gal disqualify you from Texas politics? The problem is telling everyone else on his campaign they have to be vegetarian because of his desires. Making others conform to your beliefs is the biggest problem with liberals. Eat what you want. Don't tell others what to eat. That is the issue. Well, and 2 points to that. If you are from a state in which you've got a lot of ranchers and farmers and people that make their living off meat, and you want to get elected to the Senate in which you have power and authority over environmental laws, and you believe that what they do for a living is an existential threat to the planet, that could have a tremendous impact. I mean, it's like people in the oil industry. And somebody who believes that we should get rid of all oil. Also, there is the culture factor, and there's that old adage, is this somebody you'd want to sit and have a beer with? And I think in Texas, Tallarico's personality just kind of says no. Springfield's Talk 1041. Hey, welcome to the show. My name's Nick Reed. Third hour today, we will have Author of the Week sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. We got a Heroes Breakfast tomorrow. If you're a veteran, you come by as we broadcast live from Scramblers, 6A to 9A, you're going to get free breakfast. That thanks to the Warrior's Journey, Delta Roofing, Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, and, of course, Scramblers. And I do believe Lori Rook will probably swing by and drop by. She's usually there anyhow, but we'll see if we can grab her and see if they've got any sort of updated or any updated dates for some of these community events that they do, in which they try to sort of a preliminary, hey, here's what it looks like to make sure you and your family's taken care of when it comes to power of attorney, medical power of attorney, the ability for somebody to pay your bills if you become incapacitated, paying for nursing homes. In Missouri, there are 5 specific ways you can get nursing home paid for, but those diminish over time, sometimes leaving you with absolute zero options. How it is if you want to leave things to your family, your home, to your kids, the way to do that with the least punishing tax implications. There's just a lot of information that people don't know about. And this one I always mention because it is shocking to a lot of people. Being married does not give you the right to make medical decisions for your spouse. Hospitals will oftentimes come to you and ask you what you want to do, but if they decide that's not what they want to do, unless you have that stuff legally documented, it doesn't matter if you're married. It's irrelevant. You do not have a say. That's how it works in Missouri. So you need to make sure you have that done. OzarksElderLaw.com, 10 area locations, free consultation, and you can also get their contact info from Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. One of the other things that Tallarico has said that has drawn a lot of attention, and even for non-Christians makes him come across as weird, is using the Bible and Christianity to, one, justify killing children, but also to justify transgenderism. And he does this by claiming that God is non-binary. And the context of it he gets mocked for. Now, he's right, but then he's wrong. He starts off okay and like, well, God's not a human. And so, you know, there is no gender. And this is correct. Now, you can have a discussion about whether it was Christ, the Son of God. Of course, he was a man. But God is not this physical human being, and that it's the physical human being or the physical mammal, living, physical entity that has male and female as part of the makeup. So he's right about that. The problem is he tries to then claim that means human beings don't have a gender other than what they just choose. Well, that doesn't translate. Because we have bodies. God does not. Yes, God is genderless because there is no physical form, because he's God. People are not God. So because God isn't man or woman, that doesn't mean that human beings aren't. God also doesn't have legs. It does not mean that legs don't exist on people. And it's just and it almost, I don't know. He's just, I think he's a weirdo. Some people believe that, well, I'll tell you what I think happens a lot of times. I don't know if this is him or not. I think there are people out there who don't like the idea of not going to heaven. And so they recognize the reality of Christianity's play in all of that. But they don't really like Christianity itself. They don't. It doesn't fit their world narrative. So what they try to do is take their world narrative and use God. They like try to backwards engineer things in order to claim that God and Christianity is actually supportive of what they believe. Instead of looking to the Bible, instead of looking to the teachings of Christ, instead of that messaging and saying, okay, I'm a Christian, so that means these are the things that I believe and that I understand and recognize, and I'm going to try to live my life in line with those teachings. They have their own beliefs. They're like, well, I believe I got to be a Christian to get to heaven, but I don't really like all the teachings. So I'm going to figure out how it is that I can believe. And I think they do this for themselves. I don't think Tallarico necessarily is out there doing this for the sole purpose of convincing others. I think that he's probably done this in his own head. I think a lot of people on the left do this. And so he decides that because he likes the idea of transgenders, he has to figure out how it is that Christianity backs that up. So he tells himself, well, wait a minute. Let's see, God's genderless. So, that must be because God is good. Well, God's also not a human being with a physical body. People are not God. God is not people. It all boils down to the fact he's a weirdo. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see a chance for showers and thunderstorms throughout the day with a high near 78. Tonight, rain likely with a low around 65. For your Friday, a 60% chance of showers throughout the day with a high near 79. And taking a look at Saturday, partly sunny with a chance of scattered showers in the afternoon with a high near 82.
I want a great homeloan.com. You got home loan needs. You got the Carrickers and their team. One of the things that Alex talked to us about just a couple of months ago is the fact that they proactively sought to get housed with some new folks because all the work that they do, of course, they felt that the company that they were working under just didn't really necessarily share the same values that they have and that so many of you have, and they had even gotten some of that feedback, and so they proactively sought to find a company that had cultural values more in line with what they felt were right and in line with so many of you, and they noted that it's a company based out of Texas. Now, the I Want a Great Home Loan and everything that they do, it's all the same, but I just always think that's important because it's easy to associate with folks, particularly when it comes to business that you don't necessarily agree with, but you just, you're like, well, at the end of the day, it's just all about rates and it really doesn't matter. But to a lot of people, it does. And I think it says a lot about the character of the Carrickers that was important enough for them to make that move. So if you want that sort of character and you want great home loans, you want great reverse mortgages, and you want great refinancing, then I want a great homeloan.com, because you do. Missouri is not going to suspend the gas tax as we see gasoline prices, of course, higher, though they are starting to come down a bit. Oh, they may go back up. They're like, ceasefire's over again or something. I don't know. We're going to have to do something about this pretty quick. It's starting to feel like that, thing that we don't like, where it's just like, over and Groundhog Day over and over again. At some point, we're going to do something about this constant on and off and on and off and on and off of ceasefires. I never even know when one is. So the prices may go back up, but they started to go down a bit. And there was, I know, at least one lawmaker that was requesting an emergency session in order to diminish that tax burden because of the much higher than usual gas prices due to the conflict with Iran. And Governor Kehoe is like, no, because government needs it. Let's see, Kehoe said that the revenue stream funds the jobs of the men and women across the state who work on these road projects, which contribute to the critical public safety and infrastructure needs of our state. If the funding were paused, people would be out of jobs and road projects would get delayed. Now, I know what many of you are thinking. Well, but what about us? The citizens. We're hurting too. And we have jobs, and we have families, and we have to feed our kids, so what's the story here? It isn't impossible to have a state government that continues to function with the suspension of a gas tax. In fact, a number of states have done it. Georgia's done it. Indiana's done it. Utah's done it. Now, what do these states have in common? They're red states. The executive branch in Georgia is Republican, state Senate Republican, state Assembly Republican, or state House of Representatives Republican. Indiana, Republican. Utah, same thing. Republicans are in charge. There are some states that have balked, and they're like, no, government needs it more than you do. Got to pay those government employees, and apparently don't have a plan for alternative situations. Like, somehow Indiana, Utah, Georgia, they're able to figure this out, how to keep paying people. They run government well enough to where in an economic emergency, if you will, when the people need relief, they have been economically responsible enough to be able to deal with that. California, they've said no. They're running that state into the ground, fiscally speaking. So, of course, and they don't really necessarily look out for the little guy. Illinois, Democrat, these states, of course, they're run by Democrats. Democrats run the Senate. Democrats run the state rep, the assembly. They run the governor's mansion. And then there's Missouri. Once again, throwing in with states that are run completely by Democrats, behaving as if they either do not have any sort of empathy for the average citizen, or they have managed things so poorly fiscally that they cannot manage to do what states like Georgia and Indiana and Utah and other Republican-run states have done, and temporarily put a pause on that gas tax. A gas tax, which I will remind you, that Republicans raised not once, not twice, but or 5 times, I think it was, in a row. And the reason they did that is because they wanted to jack the price up so high, it was unconstitutional, so they had to break it down over a number of years in order to get it done. Found a loophole around the Constitution. Now, don't get me wrong, I think, and I know that there are some Republicans that are focused on fiscal responsibility. And there are some Republicans that have worked very, very hard in order to lower the tax burden, particularly when it comes to attempting to shift us from an income tax to a tax that is what I would call more fair, if you will. I know there's disagreement over that, but point being is that there are efforts underway by people whose goal it is to lighten the tax burden on the average citizen in Missouri. But for Pete's sakes, why is it that when it comes to just even temporarily, the state of Missouri is being run like the state of California and the state of Illinois regarding gas taxes, as opposed to the states of Indiana, Georgia, and Utah? It would be one thing if every state was like, listen, you got to understand, this is just not possible. But why is it that Republicans who run a number of different states are able to do this, but ours just like, nope, sorry, nothing we can do. We just don't have the ability to do it. Now, I do also understand Kehoe was very instrumental in jacking up those taxes year after year after year. He spent a lot of, to give him credit, I mean, for all the effort and time that a number of Republicans are putting in and clout that they are putting in and credibility that they are putting in order to eliminate the income tax, Kehoe put that same amount into trying to raise your taxes, as he successfully would lobby to do at the gas pump. So it is near and dear to him, which I'm sure makes it more difficult to put on pause. Maybe our next governor shouldn't have a name that rhymes with hike. Maybe that's the problem. Our our current governor, Mike Kehoe, prior to that, Mike Parson, who also put a tremendous amount of effort into raising taxes at the gas pump. Tax hike Mike. Could our next governor maybe not have a name that rhymes with hike? I don't know if that's what it is, but it's something with these so-called conservatives and their obsession with the raising of taxes at the gas pump, and now won't even give us a bit of relief. Again, Missouri not looking like Georgia, Illinois, or Utah, but instead Gavin Newsom's California and Pritzker's Illinois. Birds of a feather, as they say. regarding Missouri gas tax, and Missouri is citing or taking the same approach that California and Illinois is, and telling the taxpayers just to deal with it when it comes to the gas tax, while other states that are run by Republicans, like Indiana, Georgia, and Utah, are giving temporary relief to their taxpayers at the pump by temporarily diminishing the collection of the state taxes. Pyramid Roofing Company text line, yeah, my guy, Rep. Bill Owen, told me, quote, not a big deal, just get your refund. Then they made the refund process so burdensome most people don't bother, just like the clowns in JC planned it. Well, and that was one of the selling points they used, is that, oh, well, you don't have to pay it. Now, notice they didn't do the reverse, in which, come paying your taxes, your Missouri income taxes, they're like, hey, by the way, because, you know, they'll say, do you want to donate $1 to this fund or $2 to this fund? Hey, by the way, there's a voluntary gas tax that Missouri has in place, and it equates to about this much. Would you like to go ahead and donate that? They didn't do that, did they? No. They instead say, well, we're just going to take it from you. And then if you want it back, here's 80 hoops from which or through which you must jump in order to get it back. It's a common tactic that gets used when trying to convince people to raise taxes, or when taxes are being raised, is to make you think, oh, don't worry about it. You don't have to pay it if you don't want to. Part of the reason that the position that is coming from the governor's office on this, that nothing we can do, you just got to understand, got to have that money. The reason it's so frustrating, once again, is the not so distant memory of a state that scrambled very quickly to provide tax incentives and breaks to try and keep the Chiefs in Missouri. And, have the Royals component in there as well. How quickly? I mean, boy, they didn't have a hard time figuring out how they'd pay for that, did they? But when it comes to you, so you just don't have quite the clout. You don't have quite the cash, quite the cachet. You don't hobnob with the right folks. So when it comes to any sort of tax incentives or tax relief for you, well, you just have to understand we can't do that. Well, it's priorities. Traffic update. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks' first meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see a chance for showers and thunderstorms throughout the day with a high near 78. Tonight, rain likely with a low around 65. For your Friday, a 60% chance of showers throughout the day with a high near 79. And taking a look at Saturday, partly sunny with a chance of scattered showers in the afternoon with a high near 82.
Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor Laura had the following to say. Where do I start, she asks. Daniel Hunter and his crew did a big project for us in our backyard this fall and went way beyond our expectations. The job started out with thoughtful consultation with Daniel that included drawings of our plans. He patiently worked with us and helped us create a beautiful new outdoor living area using materials that reflected our vision for our backyard within our budget. His crew worked 4 10-hour days, showing up promptly at 7 a.m., sometimes even earlier every day. They were friendly, answered all our questions, and shared enthusiasm in their work and our excitement in what was being created. The whole project was completed start to finish in about 3 weeks and exactly what we expected according to the drawings. The last day, they meticulously finished off the project, making sure every little detail was perfect. I highly recommend using Hunter Hardscapes and Landscaping, which is now Hunter Hardscape and Outdoor. They changed that name a little bit ago. My experience as well, I mean, just straight up, and I love the mentioning of their enthusiasm. That is so true, and it may seem weird, and and I've talked about this before, it's like, you notice they seem excited about doing this job, and we finally realized, or so we determined in our discussion, my wife and I, like, why would they do this all the time. They knew how happy we were going to be. They knew how our expectations were going to be exceeded because they do a tremendous job. And if you've ever had work like this done before, and then you use Hunter Hardscape and Outdoor, you're going to find that maybe you didn't have the best before. Maybe you had all right. But if you want the absolute best, product, skill, meticulous approach, you want Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. They do the landscaping as well as the hardscaping lighting. You can see everything that they do by going to hunterhardscapes.com. Also, Nick's endorsements at ksgf.com. There's a new billboard that has popped up on South Campbell. Ozarks First has a story about this, and it reads as follows. Have you heard about this billboard? Yes. Having doubts, you're not alone. LeavingMAGA.org.
I wonder if there's like a contact us form on that, and I just wonder how many people have trolled it so far.
Well, let me tell you. So I'm always curious who puts this stuff up. And this is an approach that the left, they try to replicate what seems like something that's organic occurring. So, for example, there was that movement. I guess maybe it was during the last election. Particularly, we saw a couple of movements that were very organic. One was after Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and the reaction that a lot of people on the left put on full display, and that was celebrating the murder of an American citizen because he promoted free speech and having conversations with people with whom you disagree. And for a lot of people on the left, they're like, I'm out. I cannot be part of a political party that celebrates murdering political opposition. And so there was this, and then there was a Blexit movement where black people were like, I'm done with the Democrat Party. They just entrap us, imprison us. And so these things you may not even necessarily know happen because they're organic. It's individual people that are reacting to what the Democrat Party has been doing, and it's not any sort of coordinated effort. And you get off people on the left, they try to recreate that, but sort of backwards. Instead of it being some sort of organic, massive uprising of people that were MAGA, and they just suddenly realized the errors of their way, and they wanted to go back to the good old days of how politics used to be, and that they just want to go back, and it's just this organic uprising. They want to make it look that way. So, like, they'll get a guy that buys a billboard, and as if this is happening everywhere, people just don't know where to go. The billboard, it's a guy who's got a book about why he left MAGA. I'm telling you the site. So I looked this up. Now, his book, the foreword for the book is Politician Kinzinger. You know, the guy from Illinois that just is this left-wing lunatic. I mean, he ran as a Republican, but insane guy. He did the foreword for this book, if that tells you anything. And the book, One Betrayal Too Many. The guy's name's Rich Logus, and he's kind of a goofball-looking guy. There is a section so he's got a website, which obviously this is the leavingmaga.org. On the website is a link to a weekly Zoom call that is a friends and family support group. And I'm telling you, this is part of what it reads. Solutions and serenity. I mean, this guy's a lunatic already. I have a very...
Ooh, they got a free guide now.
Oh, yeah.
Support group.
Yes. A support group for those affected by a loved one's MAGA affiliation. So it's sort of, what is that? Or they have these organizations, if you have a family member that has an addiction issue, because that, affects you as well. And there are support groups for family members who don't necessarily have addictions themselves, but they have family members and how to deal with that, how to go through. So this is essentially what this is. If you have a family member that's MAGA, then this is a support group for you. Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern. It's facilitated by Juliana Forlano and MSW, whatever that means. And it reads in the description here, many people impacted by loved ones' involvement in MAGA and extremist politics find their lives reshaped by conflict, avoidance, emotional strain, and other distorted relational dynamics. For some, the impact is explosive. For others, it's corrosive and ongoing. Walking on eggshells, managing someone else's emotional volatility, losing clarity, authority, or peace in their own lives. Solutions and Serenity is a facilitated support group for people living with that reality. This group is not about debating politics, venting outrage, or trying to force anyone to change. It's about restoring clarity, steadiness, and self-possession, and learning how to respond to MAGA-affected loved ones in ways that do not deepen the pattern. What the group is, it's, let's see. Okay, so this is what you learn if you participate in these weekly Zoom calls. How extreme... So, as I read this, remember, this is preceded by, this isn't about debating politics at all. No. This is just helping you cope. This is what you will learn. How extremist movements shape behavior, communication, and relationship dynamics. How common responses like arguing, pleading, over-explaining, cutting off without clarity often backfires. How to disengage from outrage cycles without surrendering values. How to set boundaries that are firm, humane, and enforceable. How to interact in ways that reduce escalation rather than reward it. How to interact in ways that may aid in the MAGA-affiliated loved ones breaking with their affiliation. And, I mean, it goes on. Hey, this is one of the things that these left-wing lunatics don't understand. This is how to not have the emotional distress while dealing with your MAGA family. Don't bring up politics. 9 out of 10 times, when you have some MAGA family and then you got a left-wing family member in there, 9 out of 10 times, it's the left-winger who brings it up. You can't help yourselves. I got a news flash for you. Most MAGA people and families, if there's some anti-MAGA, they don't want to talk about politics with you. They would much rather just have the nice family time together. Now, this isn't to say that there aren't exceptions, because there are exceptions. And my advice to you, if it is an exception and you are obsessed with Donald Trump and you hate him and you can't stand him and you have family that brings it up, just kind of brush it off, ignore it. But if you really want to know how it is to emotionally deal with the conflict, stop bringing it up all the time. Quit it. Stop obsessing over it. You'll find that you are much happier, because I can all but guarantee you, again, 9 times out of 10, your MAGA family members, they're probably more than happy to not get into arguments with you over politics. You're the one who brings it up. I look that the site has where you can click on people that are former MAGA members, and I know they're not stock photos, but I don't know why, I just found it so hilarious. And then you can click on their story. I clicked on one and browsed through it just out of curiosity, and it seemed to me like a left-wing person who is pretending like they used to be a Trump supporter who's converted, because it was the standard, oh, I was raised by, Christian parents, and I never understood that Black Lives Matter was anything other than just a bunch of people complaining, and when Donald Trump said very fine people, I thought he wasn't talking about Nazis. It turned out he actually was, and then I started doing research, and once I educated myself, I found out that black people have to worry about being killed by cops it's just so clear that it was from some left-wing individual trying to pretend in their minds, like, what does a stereotypical right-winger believe, and that's what they started off claiming. The whole thing is so hilariously cartoonish. But the billboard's on South Campbell, and so if you need help leaving MAGA or learning how to deal as a person with family members afflicted with MAGA, there is an online support group for you every single week. So you can find that support and learn how to navigate through this world. LeavingMAGA.org. Not at all for lunatics. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. I wanted to read a review for my friends over at Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. Linda wrote, I called Foreman Mechanical Services to work on our air conditioning, and within a couple of hours, someone was here. They quickly found the problem and swiftly fixed it in less than an hour. We thought it would be much more expensive than what it was. Their pricing was excellent. Thank you so much, Foreman. And now I feel like it's a pretty good time to mention their 24/7 emergency service line that the Foreman team provides over there. If you have an emergency pop up during, what's considered or what's after normal business hours, they have definitely got you covered. And I know this to be true because I've had them out in the evening time when I had my old AC unit, and I've also had them out on a random Saturday afternoon for water heater repairs, and they're just incredibly friendly, incredibly knowledgeable, and I highly recommend them for all of your HVAC needs. Now, if it is time to have the Foreman team out to your home or to your business, reach out to Russell today. You can find all of the contact information for Foreman Mechanical under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
If I could stomach it, I don't know, it may be fun to jump on
one of those support.
Zooms, yeah, and just record the
I was
audio.
thinking that too, but I don't think I could do it.
I don't know.
Because they're 100% serious.
We were talking about this billboard some guy bought, and he's got a book he's peddling, but it's Having Doubts, You're Not Alone, leavingmaga.org, and they have a support group called Solutions in Serenity that is online, Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, facilitated by Juliana Furlano. And I mentioned she was MSW, and I wasn't sure what that meant. Michelle texted in and said, it means she has a master's in social work. That's why we don't take those people seriously.
She's also a radio host, I guess.
Where? Like Delaware or something? Where? Let's see.
WBAI, Free Speech Radio 99.5. It's in New York City. But I'm looking at the program schedule. I don't see her on there, so.
You know what? I wonder if she has an infomercial.
Oh, mate. Well, no, because I'm looking at the Saturday and Sunday schedule,
And
too.
it's not on there either?
No.
Well, now that would be shocking for a person on the left to be a little dishonest about their resume.
Right.
I got a text from I've got two brothers that live in Texas, and one of them had texted same signs in Tomball, Texas. Democrats in Tomball, or Democrat in Tomball, you're not alone. So let me explain what this is. Somewhat of a new trend that, again, Democrats, so they do this thing where they'll figure out where it is that Republicans are succeeding, and they'll try to duplicate it without really understanding why it works. For example, Donald Trump, he calls people names. Oh, well, let's start doing that. You see Gavin Newsom trying this through the tweet and stuff. Where we'll do all caps because that's what Donald Trump does, so that means it'll work for me. When it comes to, we need a podcast person like Joe Rogan. Of course, Joe Rogan was one of their podcasts, and he's not even a conservative. But so, what does Joe Rogan do? Let's see. Let's just figure out what he's doing and do that without understanding why it is that he's successful. One of the approaches that Spencer Pratt is taking out in Los Angeles is this, like, because in Los Angeles, and people in LA, particularly Hollywood people, have talked about this, that there are more conservatives out there than people know about because they keep their mouths shut because the left is authoritarian and they just won't leave them alone, and so they just keep their mouths shut. And you'll hear some people in Hollywood talk about this just a little bit every once in a while. And so Spencer Pratt, Los Angeles, running for mayor there, 80+% of voters are Democrats. And so he has a couple of these ads in which you've got moms at yoga, and one of them kind of sheepishly mentions Spencer Pratt, and someone else is like, well, wait, hey, you know what, I kind of like him too. And he's got another one, it's like an outdoor barbecue, and it's guys doing the same sort of thing. And again, that's a heavily Democrat area, and it's essentially speaking to people who are traditionally Democrat but recognize what a train wreck things are in Los Angeles and almost like giving them permission. Like, listen, there are a lot of people. That thing you're thinking right now, that thing that you're thinking, there are other people like you. And so you don't have to feel awkward or keep it secret that you're going to vote for someone that isn't a Democrat. Now, Spencer Pratt is doing it because that is a reality that exists and he knows about. Now, it may not be massive and widespread to the point that he's going to win the election, but there are people out there. So Spencer Pratt is reacting to a condition that already exists in Los Angeles. So what Democrats try to do is they don't understand that's why he's doing it, because they don't want to admit that there's truth in that. They just see him taking that approach of saying, hey, it's okay to come out of the closet is what you are. So they're like, oh, well, we're going to do that same thing. Hence signs in Texas that say, Democrats in Texas, you're not alone. Or this billboard on South Campbell, having doubts, you're not alone, leavemaga.org. The problem is they're not responding to a reality that's on the ground. They're trying to create a false sense of a reality, which is why it never works when you try to mimic what other people are doing. And in fact, I grabbed just proof to the point. Recently, CNN data analyst Harry Etten were going over numbers, and people that consider themselves MAGA give Trump 100% approval rating in a new poll. So this whole idea, and we've been hearing this even during Trump's first term. Oh, he's losing support. Oh, they're losing. Oh, they're upset about this. Oh, they're upset about that. Now, and here's the other thing. Let's just briefly here, as an example, Iran. Yeah, there are a lot of people in so-called MAGA world that don't like what is happening with Iran and don't support it. But that doesn't mean that when it comes to overall, is Donald Trump good for the country, that they're suddenly saying everything else he did is bad, he should no longer be president of the United States. Now, liberals tend to act that way. You have to be in 100% compliance. If you're not, then they will boot you out and they will demonize you. They'll look at Fetterman, for example, how they treat him, because even though he votes 90+% of the time with Democrats on the issue of anti-Semitism and calling Trump a Nazi, he's like, yeah, not so much. So they're trying to drive him out. But that's not how Trump supporters are. They look at the whole picture, and they don't demand complete compliance. So, yeah, you can have 50% of MAGA that say, I'm against this war in Iraq, but they'll still overall say, but Trump's still the right person for the presidency at this time. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. All right, we do have Heroes Breakfast coming up tomorrow. Scramblers, join us if you're a veteran for that free breakfast. Hour 3, straight ahead, Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. News in 60 seconds. We've got Heroes Breakfast tomorrow. Scramblers will be doing the Friday Road Show there, as always, on Fridays. And it is a Heroes Breakfast. If you are a veteran, then you're going to get your breakfast paid for. That thanks to Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, Delta Roofing, The Warrior's Journey, and Scramblers. So come on out for that. We do have Author of the Week coming up, sponsored by ABC Books on Northglenn. So we're going to revisit Caitlin Yeager. She wrote Small Town Missouri, Legends, Lore, and Attractions in the Show Me State. And wanted to revisit that because, one, we had really great feedback on it. But as summer gets underway, kids are off to camp or doing whatever. Maybe you're just looking to do some family vacation that doesn't involve flying somewhere or a real lot to go into it, where it's just this huge hassle, but maybe just a weekend or a few days away. And there are just a lot of neat, fun places around Missouri that you may not know of. This is right up your alley, isn't it, Sarah? You
Yes,
love
it
this
is.
sort
I
of thing.
love a road trip.
Sarah is a road trip gal, and so this is the sort of thing that really, if that's your cup of tea, or if you've not done that, but I think as you sometimes get older, this sort of thing becomes more appealing. You enjoy different things in life that you once upon didn't, and it is a lot right in our own backyard oftentimes. So we're gonna have her here in just a couple of moments after we get news and traffic and all of that good stuff. I wanted to mention, so the Trump administration, they do things a lot of times that are oddball. And I think sometimes for the purpose of being oddball, but and sometimes just to draw criticism, but you can usually figure out why. That being said, I'm hoping that there's a posting made recently that is getting ridiculed by people on the left. And my hope is that there's enough ridicule that the White House will explain why this thing is happening or posted, because I'm genuinely curious. So here's what they posted. Some of the lineup. Musical artist for, they've got the big celebration, the 250th, the Great American State Fair is going to be happening, all of these different things, Freedom 250. And so there was a posting made June 25th through July 10th, National Mall, Washington, RSVP now, because there's going to be all these different events. And they have a posting of artists that are going to be performing. And they have Martina McBride, Young MC, CMC Music Factory, Vanilla Ice, The Commodores, Bret Michaels, Flo Rida, Morris Day and The Time, and then posted is Milli Vanilli. Now, now, of course, for those that this was before your time, Milli Vanilli, they were massively huge. They were this duo. I forget the origin story, where they were from, but I don't think it was America. They were two guys of color, and they had a number of songs that were really, really big hits. This was in the 90s. And they were, at one point, is like the peak of their popularity. They did a performance, and the quote record skipped, and it suddenly all blew up that they actually were, not only were they not singing themselves, it would eventually be revealed that they weren't even the singers at all, and that Milli Vanilli actually was like a couple of guys and a woman or something. It wasn't even two people singing the songs, and that the whole thing had been completely faked. And neither of, I think in the beginning they tried to get them to sing, but they just were no good or something. So one, well, Milli Vanilli, they're not American anyhow, and this is, America 250. That being, I say they weren't born in America. Maybe they got American citizenship, and that is part of the American story, that we are a place that is filled with people from all over the world. So that can actually, to me, fit into the America 250 narrative, the talent that comes here from other parts of the world, the benefits we get. But the thing is, these guys, best I know, they don't even sing. And so I can't figure out how it was that anyone said we should have Milli Vanilli on this lineup. And unless there's something else going on here, that hasn't been revealed, and that there's going to be some humorous component to this. But I'm genuinely, I mean, I don't care. I don't think it's anything scandalous as much as the left is going to try to make it that. But it's the fact that these guys aren't turned out to not even be singers. And what are they going to do? I suppose is what I'm wondering. Are they going to sing the songs that they didn't actually sing? Are they going to lip sync to the other people that actually sang the songs? I'm very curious how this is going to be explained. Author of the Week coming up in moments. Right now, the latest news update.
The first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll have a chance of showers and thunderstorms throughout the day with a high near 78. Tonight, rain likely with a low around 65. For your Friday, a 60% chance of showers throughout the day with a high near 79. And taking a look at Saturday, partly sunny skies with a chance of scattered showers in the afternoon with a high near 82.
Now, I should have clarified this or noted it. A number of you are like, hey, didn't one of those guys die? Rob and Fab. Rob actually died in the late 90s, not long after, not terribly long after the whole Milli Vanilli thing got exposed. I will say that the posting that was made regarding the lineup only shows the living member of Milli Vanilli, Fob, not Fab, Fob. So it does just have him. Now, why it's still... I mean, I guess Milli Vanilli was the name of the group. The whole thing is just weird. But yeah, it is the picture of only the one. Again, maybe he's got some new career, and they're going to be like, part of America's the great comeback, and here's the living one from Milli Vanilli. I don't know. Like I said, I'm very curious how that's going to play out. always do politically or historically driven books. We do have a variety. I mean, last week was a great example of that, more focused on a local murder mystery that took place here in the Springfield area. And this one is, well, small town Missouri, and about all the different small towns throughout the Missouri or throughout Missouri. And I want to welcome you to the show and tell you part of the reason that I wanted to book you is because Sarah, the producer here, she's one of these travel folks. She loves to just go and travel and visit, particularly maybe off the map style towns. And I thought, well, this would be something. This would be a perfect book for her. And I want to thank you for being with us. And are you also a travel person? What made you decide to write this book and specifically focus on maybe some of the lesser known towns throughout the state of Missouri?
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for having me. I would consider myself a travel person. I actually kind of stumbled into this book, sort of, I guess you could say. My full-time job is with a wonderful organization called Missouri Humanities, and this organization that I've been with for about 10 years is really what got me into a lot of the nooks and crannies of Missouri. It's a statewide organization. We work a lot with rural Missouri communities. And it really opened my eyes to a lot of the really wonderful stories and people and places that make up all the space in between, St. Louis, Kansas City, Springfield, Columbia, all those areas. So, that's kind of was my entree into small town storytelling. And that's kind of how the publisher caught wind of what I was doing. And I say this basically anytime someone asks this question because I think it's so funny, but the publisher didn't ask me to write the book. He asked if I knew somebody who could write the book. And I kind of stuck my neck out a little bit. And I said, hey, I've never written a book before, but, I would love to try. I think if I was going to write a book, small town stories is what I would do. So he put a lot of faith in me, and I'm really grateful to Reedy Press for giving me the opportunity. And now we have Small Town Missouri.
Part of what I always find to be interesting when there's any sort of book along these lines is even if you're born and raised and you're, full blown like Missourian, you go through and you're like, I've never even heard of half these places. How is this possible?
Oh, absolutely. I that is something I think I pride myself on with this book. It was my goal to both, include the, quote unquote obvious communities, the ones that when you're thinking small town Missouri, they're probably what you think of, places like Herman and Missouri wine country.
Right.
But I really did want to include the communities that I felt had really interesting stories and places, but you might not even understand, their place in Missouri history or even that they existed. So I really wanted to include a really good mix of not just the towns you'd expect and the stories you'd expect, but also the unexpected and really get a good kind of geographic representation of this state and the different, places that it can represent and the stories that it can share.
How did you pick the towns that are in the book? And I asked that. I did what probably just about anyone and everyone from Missouri does or did whenever they look at the book, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to find my hometown." And what was interesting, my hometown is Carthage, and I'm like, "Oh, that's not on there," but Carl Junction is, which I thought, "Oh, well, that's interesting." Yeah. Neighbors right next to one another, and so I was like, "Well, I wonder how it is that you do choose who is and isn't in the book."
Yeah, I wish it was a really easy answer, but it's not. I kind of led to it a little bit with your previous question about, making sure there was geographic representation, making sure there was a good mix of expected communities and unexpected. I think you have a great example of you might think that Carthage is in there, but Carthage isn't in there, but their neighboring town of Little Carl Junction is. And I think Carl Junction has some really great stories. And that's an opportunity to maybe you're going to Carthage anyway and you go hop over to Carl Junction, because the book says, hey, this is a great place to visit. So it started, of course, with population. That was kind of our first cutoff. And I believe our population cutoff was to keep it under 25,000 people. And that kind of obviously eliminated, a huge chunk of the state. But other than that, it really ended up with, who had stories that I thought would be interesting to tell, where can I make sure that, if somebody was going to an area of Missouri, that there was a place that's in this book that they could maybe take the beaten, unbeaten path and go and explore it instead of going, down Highway 44. Maybe you go down a state highway and explore a different community. And quite obviously, it's who had enough information that I could find in my research to fill the pages that I needed to fill. So, there's a couple examples in the book of, a town that I feature, but in that town's, 2 pages or 4 pages or what have you, it mentions, hey, while you're here, hop over to this next town. I think Keatsville mentions the town of Brunswick. I didn't include Brunswick as a 2-page spread, but I did say, hey, if you're going to Keatsville, hop over to Brunswick and see the world's largest pecan.
Right.
While you're down in Neosho, hop over to Diamond, Missouri and see the George Washington Carver birthplace. So I tried to make sure that, if I felt that, this place maybe had a very important story to tell, if I couldn't necessarily fit it in, that I tried to get people to double the experience and see another neighboring community.
We're talking with our author of the week, Caitlin Yeager. The book is Small Town, Missouri. Now, I say Carthage, my hometown. I moved there the summer before my freshman year from Excelsior Springs, which is in the book, and Hall of Waters and the Elms Resort Hotel up there. And the visuals are important, and just for people to understand the book, this isn't all print where it's just sort of a dry description of each town. I mean, you have visuals in the book. To me, it's the perfect, easily digestible, enjoyable book to kind of just flip through, especially if you're going to do a staycation and find a place that just even visually you're like, ooh, that looks like a neat place.
Coffee table to flip through if you're looking for, just something interesting to look at, something to skim. I joke that you should just keep it in your car because, you never know when you're going to be, pulling off the highway and you want to see what's around you. But it's a great combination of beautiful visuals. I think they did a great job incorporating the images and making these places look desirable. And then also the information that I put in there, I wanted to make sure that it was enticing, but it didn't give you all the answers. It invited you to really get out into these communities and figure out the rest for yourself. So it ended up, exceeding my wildest dreams as far as, what a book could be. And I'm really, really proud of it and really proud of Reedy Press.
I'm going to keep making this about myself. Salem is also on there. Half my kin is from Salem. And so growing up, family reunions were always Montauk State Park. We would do float trips down Current River quite often. And Missouri has beyond just the small towns, and many of them are connected to and maybe even still exist today because of so many of these different state parks. And we have tons of, in fact, one of our partners, Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor, they sponsor a feature in which we highlight them on air and these features that run throughout the day. And so a lot of outdoor activities connected to some of these small towns also.
Absolutely. Still thriving because of the Katy Trail, that a lot of communities that maybe saw some decline after the railroad went out, but the Katy Trail and bringing tourism, bike tourism, and these really interesting cross-state travelers to these small towns. Sometimes that's people's first exposure to these communities, and there's a lot of opportunity for growth there. There's a lot of opportunity for communities to take advantage of the fact that they have an asset like a state park or a national historic site that says, hey, you're going to come here for this place, for the Katy Trail, for Deutsheim State Historic Site in Herman, the Walt Disney Museum in Marceline. You're going to come here for these reasons already, but let me show you what else we have to offer, what other places and stories we have to offer you to help you explore more. And I think that that's a really great entree into getting off the beaten path and exploring these towns for more than just kind of the obvious attractions.
We're talking with Caitlin Yeager, the book Small Town, Missouri. Did you find any favorites or unexpected gems you were unaware of through Missouri while putting the book together?
Yeah. I think it is an amazing thing that Piedmont, Missouri has done. I love when a small town kind of figures out a little piece of their story and it's unique, and they kind of just run with it and say, you know what, this is something that other people don't hang their hat on. And Piedmont is that they are the UFO capital of Missouri. Yeah. They have a high number of reported UFO sightings, and so they said, hey, we're going to capitalize on that. And so it's kind of been this running, theme for them. They have a whole park dedicated to its UFO history. They have murals of aliens and statues of aliens, and it's just, one of those things where, it's a little quirky, and they're running with it. And I think that that's amazing. So I love finding little stories like that.
Sarah, as someone that this book is tailor-made for, you love visiting small towns when you travel, even well outside Missouri. Do you have any questions for Caitlin?
I don't think so.
Oh.
My first thought was, I wonder if Marceline is going to be on there, because that is the cutest little town, and they've really capitalized off of it.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Yeah, they have a great Walt Disney Museum.
Yeah, I wasn't
They do,
familiar.
and I'm glad you brought up Marceline, because Marceline, you said you have the cutest downtown, the cutest small town, and that's exactly what inspired Walt Disney to create Main Street USA in Disney World, is the downtown of Marceline. So you have it exactly right.
Well, any final thoughts you have for listeners today?
I just, I know we're heading into some colder months, but don't discourage. There's plenty of great things to do indoors, coffee shops and bookstores and museums and historic sites. So, keep exploring and, start planning some spring break road trips. If anybody is interested in learning more or purchasing the book, you can go to my website, CaitlinYeagerAuthor.com. Find me on social media under the same name, or you can find it at a lot of different local bookstores and big manufacturing bookstores as well.
Caitlin Yeager, the book, again, Small Town, Missouri. And, of course, big thank you to ABC Books on North Glenstone sponsoring our Author of the Week. Thanks for being with us this morning. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. Enjoy the snow.
All right, you do the same. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Coming up, E. Jean Carroll, who had claimed without any evidence and with conflicting storylines that Trump had sexually assaulted her years ago in a public department store that no one saw and so forth. There are these reports out that the Department of Justice is doing a criminal investigation on her. Now, as you know, this is going to be painted as Trump getting revenge on his enemies, but this is another one of those instances where it's pretty darn straightforward. So I'll share the latest info on that with you coming up. And then we tomorrow have our Heroes Breakfast. A reminder, if you are a veteran, as we broadcast live from Scrambler 6A to 9A, free breakfast for you.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll have a chance for showers and thunderstorms throughout the day with a high near 78. Tonight, rain likely with a low around 65. For your Friday, a 60% chance of showers throughout the day with a high near 79. And taking a look at Saturday, partly sunny with a chance of scattered showers in the afternoon with a high near 82. And Springfield Livestock Marketing Center, they're gearing up for their special 2-day horse sale this Friday and Saturday. Now, they'll kick things off on Friday at 5 p.m. with saddles and then horses to follow. And then on Saturday, they will start at 9 a.m. with tack. 1 p.m. they'll focus on outdoor items like trailers and pull-behind carts, and then they will wrap up the day with mules and gaited horses. Now, if you can't make it out, but you still want to attend, they will have live streaming options and online bidding as well. If you want to check out some of the horses and mules that will be up for sale, check out their Facebook page, Springfield Livestock Horse Sale. And of course, you can find all of the contact information for Springfield Livestock Marketing Center under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com. I also put up a photo of Mr. Pickles up there.
Oh, you did?
Yes. I figured if anybody wanted to see just one of the members of my little hobby farm, they can do that.
Well, I'm going to look because I don't know what Mr. Pickles looks like.
He's very cute.
I'm sure.
You will not be disappointed.
I have no doubt. CNN reporting, as other outlets are as well, the Justice Department launching a criminal investigation into E. Jean Carroll. E. Jean Carroll's the, let's just be honest, very nutty acting woman who... during one of the election cycles, popped up and said, yeah, Donald Trump raped me in a dressing room at a store. Now, no one heard it, saw it. She couldn't remember when, claimed it was 1 year, but then she toured around with a dress. Did a little tour circuit, because that's what rape victims do. They're like, here's what I was raped in, everyone. Come check it out. And the dress, it would turn out, was not designed until a year or two after she claimed that she thought she was raped. She also told Anderson Cooper that she actually thinks rape is sexy. And then laughed and joked on Rachel Maddow after the judge awarded her a dollar amount in a civil suit for sexual assault. After it was found not guilty for actual rape, but she laughed about all the fun ways she was going to spend the money. Because, again, acting like rape victims usually do after such a verdict. Well, this, as you, I'm sure, can imagine, is going to be painted as Trump trying to go after some poor woman that he raped. During the testimony that she provided during the civil trials, she was asked, during the depositions, if she was receiving any outside financing as part of her lawsuit against Donald Trump. And she testified no. Well, it would later be revealed that a left-wing billionaire was paying her legal expenses, paying just other expenses as well, so, was funding all of that. That's kind of a problem. It's called perjury. See, pretty straightforward stuff here. Now, we live in a world in which we're supposed to accept this idea that you can break any law you want as long as you don't like Donald Trump, and then you are supposed to be immune from prosecution. I mean, that's the standard. There's not a single person that has been indicted or has come under investigation that at the same time has targeted or hated Donald Trump that we're told is malicious prosecution because they did not like Donald Trump. And so the justice system, according to the left, is supposed to give a free pass by their standards. No one who dislikes Donald Trump can ever be prosecuted for any crime. I mean, Biden Biden's people made sure of that as best as they could with the auto pen signing pardons for future crimes that they're able to commit. This is how pro-criminal the Democrat Party has become. That they genuinely argue that as long as you are an enemy of Donald Trump, you should not be charged for perjury, you should not be charged for any crime, whatever it might be. Because if you are a political enemy of Donald Trump, by default, Donald Trump should not be allowed to be, presiding over or directing your prosecution, which in these instances anyhow are, particularly when it comes to some of the grand jury stuff, doesn't have anything to do with Donald Trump. Now, speaking of the weaponization, or the reverse weapon, like the weaponization, I don't know what you call it when your standard is no one can be prosecuted for crimes if they're enemies of the president. But we do know what it's called when you use the government to go after political opposition. That's weaponization, and Trump supporters have seen this all along. To the point that when Trump, it was proven he was targeted by someone within the IRS illegally leaking his tax information instead of the payment going to Donald Trump, he said, you know what, let's set this up. I got enough money, but there are a lot of average Americans out there who have had their lives turned upside down, their lives financially ruined because they were supporters of mine. So let's set up a fund for people who believe that they have been wronged because of their political affiliation, and they can apply. And if they are found to have been targeted for political reasons, then they can, like every other American, get justice through a payout. But much like, Trump supporters are not supposed to have the same legal recourse that other Americans are. Everybody else is able to get financial support when they've been wronged by the government. Even if they haven't been, for example, Black Lives Matter. Democrat-run cities, tens of millions of dollars they were paying out. If you had some Black Lives Matter rioter trying to kill a police officer, caught some pepper spray in the meantime, here's a check for $1 million. Left and right. You're a Trump supporter. You get targeted because of your political beliefs, thrown in a jail cell for 3 years for doing something that some left-winger gets a $50 ticket for. Too bad, so sad. Even some Republicans taking that stance. Gavin Newsom has said that anyone who is a California resident that is shown to have been politically targeted by Democrats and then received a payout, he will confiscate all of that money. He said that he is going to support a 100% tax on American citizen payouts for being victims of government weaponization. Talk about apparently trying to prove Trump's point. This is one of those instances in which one tries to determine, is Gavin Newsom so obtuse he doesn't realize he is proving the point here? Or is he so authoritarian, he knows he's proving the point and he wants to make sure people know it? Oh, you think your target, you think you, just because you're a Trump supporter, shouldn't be treated as every other American? And you think you can somehow be at least to some degree made whole because you were targeted for your political beliefs? I'll show you. In New Jersey, According to Politico, a Democrat state lawmaker there said he was already working to draft a bill setting up a 100% tax on receipts of the funds. These people are so authoritarian. They are so fascist. They're everything that they claim Donald Trump is. That they will go after Americans and just straight up steal money from them to punish them because they dared speak up. See, this is not only about punishing Trump supporters, it's about sending a message to anyone else who dares speak up, who dares challenge Democrat authority when they come after you. And this is how communist regimes, this is how China operates. This is what we see in Cuba, where there are thousands of political prisoners right now. Part of the reason Democrats have such a love for Cuba, they envy that. They envy these regimes that are able to just round up political opposition and throw them in jail. And they are getting closer and closer. For all of their false claims that that's what Trump wants to do, now sending a message to anyone who's not a Democrat who has been targeted because of their political affiliation, you better keep your mouth shut. And you think that you deserve some sort of financial compensation because you were wronged, we'll punish you for that too. And this isn't a behind closed doors, some sort of keep it down the down low, how can we mask what we're doing? They're openly bragging about it. What a great idea it is. It's also the party that nominates and supports Nazis. The Democrat Party, the party of authoritarianism, Marxism, fascism, the party of violence, the party of terrorism. Oh, I'll have that story. There's yet another candidate for Congress that is cozy with actual terrorists. Big shock, Democrat. That next, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers.
Thank you. The Pyramid Roofing Company. The next couple of days are going to be filled with lots and lots of rain. And if you experience any type of roof damage, make sure that you go with a trusted roofing company that has your best interest in mind. And my go-to recommendation is always Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. They offer residential and commercial roofing services, tarping services, free roof inspections, and the best part is they are not pushy and they won't try to upsell you. They'll be very, very honest about the work that needs to be done. So over the next couple of days, if you experience any leaks or yellowing on your ceiling, just reach out to Josh. You can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Town Hall's story, leading New Jersey Democratic congressional candidate Adam Hamaway with ties to Al-Qaeda. Well, of course.
Sounds like a great guy.
Well, sure. They got Nazis, they got Al-Qaeda members. It's just
rounded.
Very well. It's the big tent of the Democrat Party. The big tent, Democrats used to brag about having a big tent And they was, oh, we can have pro-life people because, yeah, we're for abortion, but, only in very limited circumstances. And we're for this, but we're not too extreme. So moderates and certain, maybe left-leaning Republicans, we're a big tent. Now big tent means Al-Qaeda, Nazis, anti-Semites. Not John Fetterman, though. Now, he's just a step too far. We've got to get rid of that guy. Adam Hamaway, the leading Democrat congressional candidate from New Jersey, ties to Al-Qaeda and a specific notorious terrorist. Now, as I read this to you, because as you know, Democrats will dismiss all of this and act like it's no big deal, yet they still will be like, well, Trump had lunch with that one guy that time. What's his name that was it Kanye West wanted to have lunch with Trump, and then Trump shows up and Nick Fuentes, I think, was there, and Trump didn't even know he was going to be there. That's what Democrats hang their hat on. Donald Trump, well, he's a Nazi because, he almost had lunch with a guy that we say is a Nazi. Meanwhile, their candidates get Nazi tattoos, love Nazis, spout Nazi rhetoric, hang out with Al-Qaeda, help raise money for terrorists. Well, that's different. That's not as bad. This includes a relationship, this being the Democrat candidate, with Omar Abdel-Rahman, also known as the Blind Sheik, who actually was at FedMed for a while, maybe towards the end of his life. Hamway met Abdel-Rahman in 1991, joined him on a road trip that same year. And Hamway served as Abdel-Rahman's translator for a 1993 press conference in which he denied his role in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. Hamway also testified on Abdul-Rahman during his 95 trial, where the Islamic leader was convicted of planning terrorist attacks in New York City. Before taking the stand for that terrorist, Hamway traveled to Bosnia to work for the Chicago-based nonprofit known as the Benevolence International Foundation. And we'll get the piece, just due to time. The piece goes into more extensive details about yet here another favored Democrat that pals around, spend times with, supports actual terrorists that kill people, want them murdered for, among other things, for being Jews. And part of the Democrat culture of violence. Comedian Josh Johnson. This isn't a guy that I necessarily... He's a Daily Show guy. Stated that Trump should give people free health insurance if he wants people to stop trying to kill him. He said, I think that there's been some co-opting of nonviolence to the point of almost being a psyop. You can only take away so much from a person before they have no options left other than to scream in the street, sort of riot or something like that, or before they pinpoint certain individuals that they see as the perpetrator of all these crimes against making a way of life. He goes on to say that, if Trump, for example, wants to stop people from trying to kill him, he should make sure that everyone gets free health care. This is what has become of the left. This entitled mentality of, this is what I want. If I don't get it, then we should murder the people standing in my way. This is the new norm. It is insanity. It is promoting and endorsing violence. And it is not, as I've said year after year after year, going to get any better. It only continues to get worse. By the way, the only way, of course, there is no such thing as free. These people that want, quote, free health care for everyone, I say the government round them up and force them to go to medical school and become doctors and start doing just that. Force them to do it. But of course, the only individual that could do something like that is a dictator. So what do we want? Trump to be a dictator or not to be a dictator? Quick break, more in moments. I'm Nick Reed. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, big, small. You're looking for that starter home, maybe 800, 900 square feet. Never done this before, or you're in the prime of your life and you have really worked hard, made a success of yourself, and you're looking for that multi-million-dollar home. You got Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. And here's the thing, is that it doesn't, you think, man, if she handles that sort of thing, she's not going to want to deal with me. I guarantee you. Just because I know her reputation, I know how she works, and I know her as a human being, as a person. If you're doing that starter home and you don't have a lot you've scratched together, just enough to maybe find something that is a starter home, you're going to get the exact same level of respect, dedication, and treatment as the person looking to get that multi-million-dollar home. Guarantee you that. So wherever you are in that process, Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. We've got Heroes Breakfast tomorrow. Love for you to come join us as we broadcast live from Scramblers. Free breakfast for veterans, 6 a to 9.